Hello there, fellow insomniacs and history buffs. Welcome back to Boring History for Sleep, where we dive into historical facts so mundane they'll have you snoring faster than a medieval peasant after 18 hours of field work. I'm your narrator, and tonight we're exploring why you, yes, you, with your air conditioning, refrigerators, and general aversion to plague, wouldn't survive a single day in a medieval summer. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's begin with how your day would start. That gentle morning alarm on your phone? Replace it with a rooster, screaming its lungs out at approximately 4:30 a.m. And no, there's no snooze button, none whatsoever. That rooster has one job, and it takes that job very seriously. It's the original alarm clock with wings, and it won't shut up until you're vertical and miserable. You open your eyes in your timber-framed house with walls made of wattle and daub. That's a fancy way of saying sticks covered in mud and poop. Your medieval architects weren't exactly concerned with aesthetics or, basic sanitation. These walls would literally be made with animal dung mixed into the clay. During hot summer days, that special construction material would bake in the sun, releasing a bouquet of aromas that no scented candle company has ever dared to reproduce. Your mattress isn't that memory foam wonder you ordered online. It's a sack stuffed with straw that's now home to several families of mice and approximately 10,000 fleas that have been feasting on you all night. The concept of pest control in medieval times was basically non-existent. Your bed was basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for every blood-sucking parasite in a 5-mile radius. And they invited their friends, and their friends' friends. Ooh, and that light sweat you woke up with? In medieval summer, your entire body would be drenched. Medieval homes had practically no ventilation because windows were expensive luxuries. Glass was for churches and castles, not for peasant hovels. Your sleeping quarters would be shared with your entire family, parents, grandparents, siblings, maybe some livestock downstairs, adding their special brand of summer aroma and heat. The concept of personal space wouldn't be invented for several hundred more years. Speaking of aromas, let's talk about that morning breath. There's no minty, fresh toothpaste waiting for you. If you're fancy, you might rub your teeth with a cloth. If you're really sophisticated, you might use a chewed stick as a toothbrush. Most people just didn't. Tooth decay was so common that having black, rotting teeth was just the expected human condition. Imagine a world where the British teeth stereotype applied to literally everyone. The morning greeting ritual was probably just everyone trying not to breathe directly on each other. Time for breakfast. Hope you like bread. Because it's bread, maybe some porridge if you're lucky, both likely containing bonus ingredients like insect parts and rodent droppings because FDA regulations were still about 900 years away. Yummy. Your bread would be made from whatever grain was available locally, probably rye or barley rather than white wheat flour. It would be dense, coarse, and often on the verge of moldy in summer humidity. But you'd eat it anyway because the alternative was starving, and don't even think about coffee. That morning caffeine fix you depend on, completely non-existent in medieval Europe. Coffee wouldn't become common until the 16th century. You're facing a day of hard labor with nothing but your natural energy reserves, which, let's be honest, are pretty pathetic by medieval standards. The closest thing to an energy drink would be some ale left over from the night before. Yes, alcoholic beverages for breakfast were completely normal, Not because medieval people were party animals, but because the alcohol made the water safe to drink. You know what's wild? We complain when we can't find our favorite oat milk at Target. Meanwhile, medieval folks were like, wow, this bread only has 3 visible weevils in it today. It's my lucky day. Makes you think, doesn't it? I personally would last about 15 minutes before having a complete breakdown over the bathroom situation, which we'll get to shortly. Trust me, it's not pretty, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue with your medieval summer morning. After your gourmet breakfast of questionable bread, you'd need to dress for the day. Your wardrobe consists of exactly 1 or 2 outfits. If you're a man, you're wearing a long tunic or shirt, possibly with braids, a sort of baggy underwear. And if you're a woman, you're wearing a long dress with an apron. These clothes are made of wool or linen, depending on your social status and the local resources. Wool in summer, let that sink in. People wrap themselves in sheep hair during the hottest months of the year and forget about that refreshing morning shower. Bathing was sporadic at best, often regarded with suspicion and sometimes considered dangerous to your health. Seriously, many medieval medical practitioners believed that opening your pores through bathing could allow disease to enter your body. So instead of cleaning yourself, you just add more body odor to yesterday's accumulation. By midsummer, your personal aroma would be so distinctive that dogs could track you from 3 villages away. So you've managed to survive breakfast without getting food poisoning. Congratulations, now it's time for work. Hope you've been hitting the gym, because medieval summer labor was basically CrossFit from hell. If you're a peasant, which statistically you would be, you're heading to the fields. In the blazing summer sun for about 12 to 16 hours with no sunscreen. SPF, more like suffer painfully forever. Your skin would blister and peel within days, and there's no aloe vera gel waiting at home, just some sheep fat mixed with herbs if you're lucky. The concept of sunburn as damage to your skin wasn't really understood. You just accept the pain as part of summer, like the plague or your neighbor's constant gossiping. Your work clothes, a single outfit made of wool or rough linen that you wear basically all summer. It's itchy, it's full of sweat, and washing it is a luxury you might afford once a month, maybe. Laundering clothes was a major production involving hauling water, heating it using precious soap, if you had any, and then waiting for things to dry. Most people simply couldn't afford the time or resources to clean clothes regularly, so you'd just wear your outfit until it could practically stand up on its own. Speaking of sweat, let's address the elephant in the room: body odor. Deodorant wasn't invented until the late 19th century. Everyone stank, and I mean everyone, from the lowliest peasant to the king himself. Summer turned the entire population into a walking funk festival. The only difference was that rich people could mask their stench with expensive perfumes, which honestly just created a nauseating mixture of flowery scents and raw human musk. Imagine walking through a crowded marketplace in July, surrounded by hundreds of people who haven't bathed in weeks. That's the authentic medieval summer experience. Your work in the fields would be brutally physical. No mechanization, no fancy tools, just your muscles and some basic implements doing battle with the unyielding earth. Women, men, and even children as young as 6 or 7 would be participating in this labor. Need a water break? Better hope there's a stream nearby. Want to check your phone? Sorry, the closest thing to entertainment during your workday would be watching the village idiot try to catch frogs with his mouth. Feeling thirsty after all that work? Great news. The water is probably going to kill you. Most water sources were contaminated with human waste, animal carcasses, and all sorts of bacteria. That's why people drank so much ale and wine. The fermentation process made it safer than water. So your hydration options were basically mild alcohol, stronger alcohol, or diarrhea followed by potential death. Choose wisely. Even wells, which provided somewhat cleaner water, could become contaminated in summer months, especially during droughts when water levels dropped. And speaking of bodily functions, let's talk bathroom breaks. Need to pee? Find a bush, a corner, or just go wherever. Number 2, there might be a communal privy, which is essentially a bench with holes over a pit of accumulated human waste that's been fermenting in the summer heat. The smell would make your eyes water. And toilet paper? That's what leaves, moss, or your hand is for. Hope you remember which hand is your wiping hand and which is your eating hand. This wasn't just a matter of comfort. The lack of proper sanitation meant that intestinal parasites were basically standard equipment in the medieval body. Roundworms, tapeworms, and their various friends were constant companions to most people. Isn't it wild to think about? We get upset when public restrooms are out of the fancy quilted toilet paper. Meanwhile, medieval folks were like, "This oak leaf looks less scratchy than that pine cone." I genuinely think modern humans have lost the ability to handle even mild discomfort. I tried camping once without my phone charger and nearly had an existential crisis by nightfall. Medieval people would absolutely roast us right before they died at age 35 from an infected paper cut. It's now midday, and the summer sun is directly overhead. Remember, there's no air conditioning, no electric fans, not even ice to cool your drinks, unless you were absurdly wealthy and could afford to have ice cut from frozen lakes in winter and stored underground. Even kings didn't have reliable access to cold food or drinks during summer. The best cooling technology available was sitting in the shade and maybe fanning yourself with a large leaf. Prestigious, I know. The temperature inside buildings would often be hotter than outside thanks to cooking fires, body heat, and that brilliant medieval architectural decision to minimize windows. Many people would actually sleep outside during summer nights just to escape the indoor heat. This created its own problems, from increased insect bites to greater vulnerability to thieves or wild animals. But when the choice is between being eaten by mosquitoes or slowly cooking in your own home, the mosquitoes start to look like the lesser evil. Lunch break. Hope you like more bread. Maybe some vegetables from the garden, if you're lucky. Meat was a rarity for most people, and when available, it was often on the verge of spoiling, especially in summer. Food preservation consisted mainly of salting, smoking, or just hoping for the best. Refrigeration was centuries away. Summer was actually a period of relative abundance for fresh produce, but also the time when food spoiled fastest. The vegetables available would be whatever grew locally: cabbage, onions, turnips, and if you were fortunate, some peas or beans. Your lunch break would be brief. No hour-long scrolling through social media while you nibble on your artisanal sandwich. Just a quick refueling stop before heading back to work. If you were lucky, you might get to rest during the hottest part of the day, a practice more common in southern Europe than in the north. This wasn't out of concern for worker comfort, it was simply acknowledgement that humans can't function efficiently when they're on the verge of heat stroke. Summer was also prime time for insects. Flies everywhere, mosquitoes treating your body like an all-you-can-eat buffet, fleas jumping from your pets to your bedding to your body. There were no bug sprays, no screens on windows, not even the concept of insects spreading disease. You just lived with them, like unwanted roommates who occasionally gave you the plague. The buzzing and biting would be constant companions through day and night. Swarms of flies would be drawn to animal waste, open sewage, and food preparation areas. Keeping them away from your meal would be a constant battle. Speaking of disease, summer was when things got really interesting on the epidemiological front. The warm weather created perfect conditions for all sorts of nasty outbreaks. Dysentery, basically uncontrollable bloody diarrhea, was so common it was called the flux. and considered a normal part of summer life. Typhoid, cholera, and various fevers made regular appearances. The concentration of human and animal waste in waterways, exacerbated by summer heat, created perfect breeding grounds for bacteria. With no understanding of germ theory, people would attribute these illnesses to bad air, divine punishment, or astrological influences. Medicine consisted mainly of balancing your humors through bloodletting, which is exactly as helpful as it sounds when you're already weakened by disease. Your doctor's credentials? He probably inherited his job from his father, his medical knowledge, a mixture of superstition, astrology, and random plant lore. His treatment plan? Probably bleeding you until you pass out while chanting something. In Latin, if you were very lucky, you might receive herbal remedies that had some actual medicinal properties. But just as likely, you'd be prescribed a poultice made from crushed beetles or a tonic containing toxic metals. Can you imagine calling out of work with dysentery and your boss being like, "Yeah, that's just summer, see you tomorrow"? Medieval people were built different. We call out because our Uber Eats order was 20 minutes late, and we're not emotionally equipped to handle the workday. Meanwhile, they're out there harvesting wheat with an active case of typhoid. Makes our no days off grind culture look pretty weak in comparison, right? I complain when my AC is set to 74 instead of 72. I wouldn't make it through breakfast in medieval times. As the afternoon wears on, your work continues under the relentless sun. If you're a craftsperson rather than a field worker, you might be inside a workshop, but that's hardly better. Imagine a blacksmith's forge in summer heat, or a baker working next to an oven in July. Medieval trades often involved fire, which means adding even more heat to an already scorching day. The concept of occupational safety didn't exist. Burns, cuts, crushed limbs, all just occupational hazards you'd accept as normal. For women, summer might bring additional burdens. Along with fieldwork or household management, they would be responsible for preserving the summer harvest for winter use. This meant hours of additional labor picking, drying, and storing fruits and vegetables during the hottest months. Children would be put to work as soon as they were able, gathering berries, watching younger siblings, or helping with whatever tasks matched their size and strength. The sun is finally setting, and your grueling workday is coming to an end. Time to kick back and enjoy some Netflix, right? Wrong. Entertainment options were limited. No books unless you were among the tiny percentage of people who could read. No sports on TV, though you might participate in some local games that would probably result in serious injury by modern standards. Football in medieval times was basically a village-wide riot with a ball somewhere in the mix. Other popular pastimes included archery practice, mandatory for men in many places, wrestling, and various dice or board games that would seem painfully simple by today's standards. The main form of entertainment? Gossip. Talking about your neighbors, maybe some storytelling if someone in your community was good at it, music if someone had an instrument and knew how to play it, riveting stuff. The medieval version of Netflix was literally just listening to the oldest person in town talk about that weird thing that happened during the famine of 1321, and yet there was a richness to this social interaction that our screen-focused entertainment often lacks. People actually had to talk to each other face to face. Imagine the horror. For the especially pious, there was always church, which, I should mention, you were attending whether you wanted to or not. Religious observance wasn't optional, and summer brought special saints' days and festivals that required participation. These religious festivals were actually your best shot at something resembling fun in the medieval summer. Feast days would bring special foods, music, dancing, and a break from work. Of course, you'd still be sticky, stinky, and probably covered in insect bites, but at least you'd be enjoying some community celebration. Summer evenings also meant extended daylight, which medieval people took full advantage of. No electricity meant that once the sun went down, you were pretty much done for the day, unless you wanted to burn expensive candles or smelly tallow lamps. So, summer evenings were when social gatherings happened, when crafts got made, when life had something resembling leisure. People would sit outside their homes working on mending clothes or tools while chatting with neighbors. Children might play simple games, adults might share news or stories, and communities would strengthen bonds that were essential for survival. Dinner would be your third exciting serving of bread for the day, maybe with some cheese that had been sitting in the summer heat or vegetables from the garden. If you were prosperous, you might have a thin soup with actual meat in it. Bon appetit. Summer was actually the time of relative plenty in the medieval food calendar, with fresh produce available in new dairy products. Still, the diet remained monotonous by modern standards, with limited variety and minimal spices for most people. After dinner, as darkness approached, you'd face a critical decision. Go to sleep in your hot, stuffy house full of fleas, or sleep outside where you'd be eaten alive by mosquitoes but might catch a slight breeze. Medieval summer nights, a real choose-your-own-adventure of discomfort. Many people opted for sleeping on roofs or in courtyards during the hottest nights, risking falls and exposure to the elements in exchange for slightly cooler temperatures. You know what's funny to think about? We doom scroll on our phones for hours, complaining about how boring our lives are, while medieval folks would sit around making up elaborate stories about why the miller's wife was looking at the blacksmith funny. Like their version of viral. Content was literally just village rumors. No wonder everyone was so religious. At least church had some production value with the stained glass and incense. I get cranky when my Wi-Fi drops from 5 bars to 4. Medieval me would have been that guy who gets way too invested in local politics just for something to do. Did you hear about the new tax on chickens? Absolute madness, I tell you. Night has fallen. Time for sleep. Remember that flea-infested straw mattress? It's waiting for you. If you're lucky, you have a thin sheet for covering, though in summer heat, you might forego it entirely. The concept of pajamas was centuries away. Most people slept in a lighter version of their daily clothes or nothing at all, depending on the temperature and local customs. Your sleeping arrangements likely involve sharing a bed with multiple family members. Privacy wasn't really a concept for the average medieval person. Everyone slept in the same room, often in the same bed. Parents, children, occasionally even livestock on the floor below, all generating body heat in the summer night. The idea of children having their own bedrooms would have seemed absurdly wasteful and impractical. The family bed wasn't just about space constraints, it was also about warmth in winter and protection. There was safety in numbers, both from human threats and the many dangers that night could bring. If nature calls during the night, you're not walking to a clean bathroom. You're using a chamber pot that sits under your bed and gets emptied in the morning, or more likely, you're finding that corner or bush outside again. Navigating through a dark house to relieve yourself would be a hazardous adventure, with no flashlights or nightlights to guide your way. You'd risk stepping on sleeping family members, household objects, or possibly even small animals that had made their way inside. The night brings its own chorus of sounds, people snoring, animals outside, and the constant, maddening buzz of insects. No white noise machine, no earplugs, just the raw symphony of medieval nightlife. The sounds of your community would be ever present, a baby crying in a nearby house, dogs barking at real or imagined threats, the occasional shout or argument. Medieval villages never truly fell silent, even in the deepest part of night. And let's not forget the very real fear of fire. With homes made primarily of wood and thatch, and light provided by open flames, house fires were a constant danger. A single misplaced candle could destroy not just your home, but your entire village, especially during the dry summer months. Fire was both essential for survival and an ever-present threat. The fear of a nighttime fire breaking out would linger in the back of everyone's mind, an anxiety that modern smoke detectors and fire departments have largely eliminated for us. Then there's the security aspect. Locks existed, but were primitive. Nighttime was when thieves and miscreants did their best work. The concept of a police force was centuries away. Your safety depended on community vigilance, and maybe the local lord's men if you were lucky enough to live near the castle. Many communities organized their own night watches, with men taking turns patrolling to protect against thieves, fire, or other threats. These watchmen would call out the hours, serving as medieval alarm clocks while checking for dangers. The darkness of a medieval night was profound in a way that's difficult for modern people to comprehend. Without streetlights or illuminated screens, the darkness was complete, broken only by moonlight or the occasional distant lantern. This darkness shaped medieval psychology and spirituality, creating a world where the night was genuinely mysterious and potentially dangerous, filled with both real threats and imagined supernatural presences. As you lie there, sweating, itching, listening to the cacophony of medieval night sounds, you might reflect on your day of backbreaking labor, terrible food, and constant discomfort, only to realize you get to do it all again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Summer in medieval times wasn't a season, it was an endurance test. And yet, medieval people found joy, meaning, and purpose in their lives. They celebrated, they loved, they created art and music and literature that we still treasure today. Their resilience in the face of conditions we would find intolerable speaks to the remarkable adaptability of humans. Seriously though, we think we have it rough when our favorite show leaves Netflix. Medieval people just laid there in the dark, covered in bug bites, smelling everyone's BO, while their teeth literally rotted in their mouths, and they were like, well, at least I'm not dead from the plague yet. Talk about perspective. I freak out if my phone battery hits 20%. I wouldn't last 2 hours in medieval times before I'd be begging a witch to curse me just to end the misery. And they did this every day of their lives without complaining on Twitter about it. Incredible, really. So there you have it. A typical summer day in medieval times. From the moment you woke up until the moment you fell asleep, it was a non-stop carnival of discomfort, disease, and back-breaking labor. No air conditioning, no refrigeration, no proper sanitation, no modern medicine. Just you versus nature, with some rudimentary tools and a whole lot of body odor. The next time you complain about the summer heat while sitting in your climate-controlled home, scrolling through your smartphone, sipping ice water from your filtered dispenser, remember the medieval peasant who would view your life as an unimaginable utopia of comfort and luxury. If you're still awake at this point, though I hope you're not, consider how fortunate we are to live in an age where summer is something to enjoy rather than endure. Where our biggest complaint might be that the line at the ice cream shop is too long, rather than worrying about whether the water we drink will kill us. Sleep well, my friends, in your clean, comfortable beds, free from fleas and family members sharing your sleeping space. You've earned it by being born in the right century. And if you like this journey into the sweaty, smelly past, remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment about which historical period you'd least like to experience. Maybe we'll cover it in a future episode of Boring History for Sleep. Until next time, good night, sleep tight, and don't let the medieval bedbugs bite.